Alright guys, welcome back to TK Wanderlust. Now, today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create your perfect travel itinerary. I'm going to be breaking it down step by step using the exact method that I've used for years when I took my trips to, Chicago, Florida, and even this one coming up that we're going to be doing for our first tour or for our first trip on the channel to Ireland and Portugal. Kat's still feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'm going to be doing this one solo again. She feels very bad about this and she's very much looking forward to meeting you guys. She really is. She should be back here in the next episode or two. So, as I mentioned in the previous episode, every good itinerary starts with an anchor activity, the main thing that your day revolves around. For Chicago, some of my anchor activities were the Metallica concerts, the White Sox Cubs game, and the river tour. Other activities that filled the space around those were like the Art Institute of Chicago, which was one of the best art museums that I've ever been to in my life. The Shed Aquarium, which again, one of the best aquariums that I've ever been to. The Field Museum and Millennium Park. So, you got to ask yourself, what's the main event of the day? What's the biggest thing that I want to do? And then you can research what other, activities or places that are on your hit list that are around your main activity, and you can do those things that day. You want to group, things that are close together. You don't have to just stick with one anchor activity, per day. You can do two if you're feeling particularly bold. But I would not recommend doing that, every single day that you're out there, or you're going to get burned out really fast. So this is where people make their itineraries way harder than they need to be. Instead of, jumping around all over town all day, you want to schedule activities close together. Like I did, that's what I did in Chicago. In that trip itinerary, you can see here that I grouped things like, the Sky Deck and the Art Institute of Chicago and Giordano's and the Night 2 Metallica concert at Soldier Field because they were all within 20-25 minutes of walking distance with each other. And you can see that I made notes about how long approximately it would take to get where I needed to go by walking or by bus or L train. And your feet may hurt, but hey, you'll burn off some of those vacation calories. Your itinerary should follow a natural rhythm that you feel comfortable with. Here's the structure that I follow almost every time. First, I'll grab breakfast. And then from there, I'll head out to my first stop of the day, which is usually either the first anchor activity or the anchor activity, depending on if I'm doing one or two that day. After that is usually lunchtime. And just a quick little tip, you can save a lot of money just on food. And I've started doing this my last couple of trips, but you can save a lot of money on food costs. If you have a mini fridge in your hotel room, you can, go to the store and you can buy things, like yogurts and, frozen breakfast items like little frozen breakfast burritos or little frozen breakfast sandwiches. And you can, buy things like, lunch meat and, cheese and, bread. And you can make your own breakfasts and lunches and, eat your breakfast at, in your hotel room, and take your lunch with you, and have a little picnic in the park somewhere, or on the beach, or just wherever. And that'll save you a lot of money. You want to save your money for your food costs. You want to save those for dinners, because you that's when you're going to want to treat yourself. I promise you. After lunch, I'll typically head off for my second activity of the day, which is typically lighter and not as physically demanding as the first one. Um, After that, I give myself some time to just walk around and explore. I give myself time for spontaneity, because a lot of the best experiences that I've had while traveling have been things that I didn't actually plan for. And then sometimes I'll have a night activity like concerts, but not typically. Not typically. Um, I usually like to spend my nights just winding down from the day, and journaling. You probably sometimes, and just processing all of my adventures for the day. Once the sun goes down, I'm usually back at my hotel. I'm not a big nightlife person. So trips, they feel so much better when you have a daily flow that you are comfortable with and that that you can follow. A perfect itinerary has a balance of free and paid activities. In Chicago, I mixed my paid activities, like the Art Institute in Chicago, the Field Museum, the Shed Aquarium, things like that, with free attractions like the Lincoln Park Zoo and Millennium Park, um, and and stuff like that. And doing this, it keeps the trip fun, full of variety, and very easy on the wallet, which is very important. I know, especially in today's world, that is so important. So you want to do this when you're planning any trip, whether it be, a week away, a week, staying countryside, or just a weekend away, or even or a big international trip. You want to try and build your itinerary in that way. Your entire day shouldn't be planned down to the minute. Um, you got to leave open some space where you can wander and you can explore, some local shops, and, try out random restaurants, and, follow whatever catches your eye in the moment. I can't tell you how many times when I was in Chicago that I ended up not doing something that was on my itinerary completely. I completely, um, ignored it, and I went off of my itinerary, just because something else caught my eye. And those were some of the best experiences when I was out there. Journaling in Millennium Park almost every night. Eating enjoying a Chicago dog in the park with some feathered friends all around me. Yeah, the tour that I took of Wrigley Field. Those things that you find in the moment, those are the ones that you're going to remember most, at least in my experience. So you want to leave some time open so that you can do those things too. So once you have everything set, once you have everything planned out that you want to do, you want to plug it into a Word document in a clean, easy to read format that is going to be easy for you to understand. Take my Chicago itinerary, for example. I went with what day of my trip it was, and the date, the activity, the estimated walking times, or transit times between each activity, and when I was going to take my meal times. And doing this makes your whole trip feel stress free and structured, without being too rigid. You just keep it simple. You want to have a general idea. You want to have a general game plan, but you don't want to plan out every minute. So keep it simple, keep it readable, and keep it realistic. That is the biggest thing. Keep it realistic. You gotta know how much you can do in one day. And there we go. That is exactly how I build my itineraries. Whether it's for a weekend getaway or a huge international trip, these steps have saved me money and headache and time, and I hope they do the same for you. I really hope they do. If you use this method, your days will feel organized, flexible, and adventure friendly. So if you liked this, go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. And in the next episode, I'll be showing you how we find the cheapest flights. And trust me, that's going to be one worth watching. So thanks for joining me, and welcome to TK Wanderlust. Adventure starts here.